Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Martha Boneta, host of the John Fredericks Show. We have my friend, Brian Moran, on the phone. Brian Moran is the Virginia Secretary of Public Safety. Brian Moran, as you all probably know, he was a primary candidate for governor of Virginia in 2009. He also served in the House of Delegates from 1996 until 2008, representing Northern Virginia's 46th district. Brian Moran is the reason we are safe in the Commonwealth of Virginia. He makes sure that when there's a storm, when there's any kind of an emergency, Brian Moran makes sure that we, the people in the Commonwealth, are nice and safe and sound. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Martha. I think you probably give me a little bit more credit than it's due, but I appreciate that very much.
Can you help me with your title? Because I think I said Virginia Secretary of Public Safety, but it's more than that, isn't it?
Well, it's Public Safety and Homeland Security. So the first secretary, we actually, when we took office, we combined the secretariats, the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Secretary of Public Safety, because those agencies that would be responsible for a Homeland Security event, like a terrorism event, all come under the Secretary of Public Safety. So it was prudent to combine the two secretariats, make it more efficient, more effective. And so I'm the liaison with the Department of Homeland Security and the Homeland Security advisor to the governor. So it
and you have like 1,000 people underneath you. When you think of all of the, or more, when you think of all the, safety, all the Homeland Security, various departments. I mean, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, obviously the Virginia State Police.
Yes.
First and foremost, but we have the National Guard, about 10,000 members of the National Guard. We have a terrific National Guard unit here in Virginia. We're second most deployed overseas than any other state. I believe Texas still has more deployed, but we're well trained and equipped National Guardsmen, so that's a terrific unit. And then, of course, the Department of Emergency Management. This is hurricane season, so the Department of Emergency Management is working with all the local communities in the Hampton Roads region to make sure we are prepared in the case of a hurricane or tropical storm. And it's a terrific job, because I do get to work with so many in the law enforcement community and first responders.
Thank you.
The citizens of Virginia should feel very good about the folks we have ensuring our safety. Absolutely.
Very grateful for all of them every single day. So let me ask you, can we talk a little bit about, Thursday's events, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about hurricane preparedness, and we're going to talk about fireworks.
Yeah. Well, there's always a lot going on in my secretariat.
Yes.
Obviously, there's a variety of issues when it comes to safety and security, and so Thursday there is a execution scheduled.
Right.
Thursday evening, Department of Corrections carries it out down in Greensville, and there's a lot of discussion now with respect to whether or not the individual should be executed.
Right.
This is something the governor takes extremely seriously. This is our fourth execution of this administration. The first two went through without any complications. The third one, the governor felt that there were some problems with the sentencing phase of the trial, and he wanted to ensure that all appropriate sentencing was carried out, and so he commuted that sentence to life. And now we have the fourth one, and there was a lot of advocates telling us that this person should not be executed because of mental illness. And so, again, the governor takes it seriously. He reviews all of the written material, reads trial transcripts, appellate briefs, and he'll make a decision this week before the scheduled execution on Thursday.
And I'm so glad that we're talking about this, because mental illness is an issue that, first of all, we're confronting so many issues here in the Commonwealth. We've got, the drug epidemic that's out of control, and there's this bipartisan, panel, I guess, or task force, trying to combat that. And then, mental illness. I mean, it's something that in the criminal justice, we speak of criminal justice reform, and we speak of what we can do to really create laws that that are reasonable. I mean, for example, there are people sitting in jails for marijuana possession and things like that. So, we really do need to reform. We do need to have strong criminal justice reform. And then, but when we get to mental illness, I was hoping you could speak to that a little bit. We're talking about the execution and mental illness and how that plays a factor in this.
It's a real challenge, because what has happened with our jails is they have become some of our largest mental health institutions now. We have not, as a society, properly resourced community mental health services so that people can access mental health, same-day service, stay in the community, and operate and live lives. And without those, they get into problems, whether it's codependency with drugs or just disorderly behavior that is borders on criminal, and they end up in our jails. And so our jails are not particularly equipped to handle them. A lot of our sheriffs have really gone above and several jurisdictions come to mind right here in the central Virginia area with Henrico and Chesterfield and Virginia Beach. They've stepped up trying to provide services, but it's expensive, and that's not where we should be providing those services. So mental health is a real challenge, and we are trying to properly resource it by additional services in the community through our community services boards, more treatment services. But they end up in our jails.
That's right.
And it's a real problem. I mean, we've been dealing with it. We're trying to work with our sheriffs to deal with it, but it's a problem. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, you're doing a great job, and in terms of hurricane preparedness, what can Virginians do? How can we be prepared? What can we expect?
Well, individuals need to know what to do in the case of an emergency. Don't rely. First of all, nobody should be relying on government.
Right.
We're doing everything we can to ensure their safety, but everybody has to have some personal responsibility here.
That's right.
And so what we have come up with is a Know Your Zone. We have now created zones in the Hampton Roads region, because that is the region that's the most vulnerable to hurricanes. And it's really based now on, Martha, not necessarily the wind damage, but rather the storm surge and the flooding. That is where where your fatalities occur, is through flooding and storm surge. And so it's important to know the low-lying areas in the Hampton Roads region. So through the Know Your Zone program, you will make that determination whether or not you need to evacuate that area. And so A, B, C, D, in the event of a storm, A, likely evacuate, maybe B, depending on the severity of the storm, all zones may have to evacuate. But it's really based on the low-lying versus high area. We're not going to be able to evacuate everyone from Hampton Roads.
Right.
That, in case, a real severe storm, we're going to have to. But knowing human nature, people wait to the last minute.
That's right.
They don't evacuate 96 hours before the storm arrives.
No.
And so that's what we've been trying to deal with. We're trying to be realistic about what human nature tells us how people will behave.
Yes.
And so we've established these zones. And I think I credit the Department of Emergency Management, all the local partners, all the local emergency management, city governments, county governments down in the Hampton Roads region, working very collaboratively with us, because you recognize, of course, you have all the residents, and then you have all the tourists, and then you have North Carolina beaches evacuating north. And so there's a lot of traffic if a storm were to occur. And so again, I think we're dealing it in a realistic manner, and anyone in that area really should check out the Department of Emergency Management's website, Know Your Zone program.
I love that, Know Your Zone, because it's easy, it's friendly, it's you can go there, you can find out where you're located, what you need to do, that kind of thing. That's a great program.
Well, we want everybody to be safe, enjoy the beaches, the beautiful area of the Hampton Roads.
Yes.
I was just recently out on the Eastern Shore. We have beautiful area. We want people to enjoy it. But in the case of a storm, we're going to have probably half a dozen to a dozen named storms this season. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to be striking our coast, but we need to be prepared. That's what it's all about. Be prepared. More prepared, it won't happen, right?
That's right. That's right.
Well, more prepared we are.
Okay, Brian, my next question for you has been getting a lot of attention lately, a lot. And so I can't think of anybody better than you to address it. So I posted on my social media, it's about time Virginia didn't have only rinky-dink fireworks. Bring on the big boom pyrotechnics, okay? So who knew?
I saw that. Yeah. I'm a follower of you on Facebook.
Yeah, I follow you too. Well,
Harris Barnes,
yes,
Liberty
yes.
Farm, but who
knew it would create a firestorm? Pardon the pun. Like it would create such fireworks and such an explosion. And these are some of the responses I've received, and I want to know if you could talk about them. Somebody responded and said, "I love fireworks as much as the next person, but we need to remember this area has a huge population of veterans, many of whom have PTSD. Let's try to be considerate of them." I had other people talk about their dogs, how they didn't want their dogs to hear fireworks. So but the majority of the folks said, "Yeah, bring it on. We want to see explosions in the sky." Why is it that you cross over into Tennessee and West Virginia and it's legal, and then all of a sudden it's safe, and then all of a sudden you come into Virginia and we don't get to have fun and have the same toys that they do in other parts of the country?
Yeah, well, it certainly is a topic for this time of year, isn't it?
Yes,
Happy 4th of July to you and everybody. There has been legislation. We got into office January of 2014, and I think there's been a bill every year that during this term to expand our fireworks in Virginia.
Yeah.
And it actually, I believe the last time it passed the state Senate and was defeated in the Virginia House of Delegates. So those individuals who think it's important for us to have the fireworks, they should contact their member of the House of Delegates to vote for it. Mm-hmm. Now, from my perspective, whatever the governor's opinion is my opinion when it comes to the official stance. I will tell you, one of my 11 agencies in public safety are the fire programs, and so we provide training to all the fire volunteers and career here in Virginia, and we have the state fire marshal under that department. Mm-hmm. They will tell you, they're in opposition. They feel it is indeed a safety matter.
Sure.
People get injured, and so forth. So, they are not fans of expanding our fireworks in Virginia. But the governor, I don't think, has an official position.
Right.
And they say it will create jobs. You can manufacture them here.
That's right.
So there's some positives, but I see one candidate for governor running. He has said he's for it, and so we'll just see how this thing turns out. But that from the fire perspective, your fire marshals, your local fire chiefs will tell you that it's not a good idea because of the safety aspect of it.
Well, I hopefully one day we'll have a big celebration at the governor's mansion in Richmond with big, huge fireworks displays.
Fireworks.
That would be fabulous. I'm all for it.
I personally enjoy fireworks.
Yeah, I do too.
So
then lastly, we have 64 new Virginia laws that came into effect on July 1st. And, one of them has been getting a lot of attention. It's the Everclear, which I didn't even know Everclear was an issue, but apparently it's 151 proof clear grain alcohol, and other states allow the sale of Everclear, but apparently in Virginia,
every state, but us, and I believe it was Vermont, or maybe Wisconsin. There were only 2 states that didn't. We were one of the 2. And this bill passed 2 years ago, and we talked with the governor as we always do. The governor looks through all these bills and reads them and asked our opinion. And our opinion was, well, what's the rush? Let's take a look at this.
Sure.
So he asked myself and Secretary of Health and Human Resources, Bill Hazel, to look into it. Mm-hmm. We had a meeting because, something else we've been dealing with, Martha, is this on college campuses. The binge drinking on college campuses. You got sexual assaults.
Right.
You got alcohol poisoning, a lot of issues on college campuses. And so we were concerned, you make this stuff available near our college campuses. What does it mean for our young people?
Sure.
And so we looked into it, and we worked with a lot of the folks from our colleges and universities and gained their expertise and opinions. And so this year when it passed, the governor signed the bill, because we had worked with them, and we're going to work with our Alcohol Beverage Control Commission, our commissioners there, to see how we can implement it in a way that's safe and sound. Maybe not sell it near college campuses. There's some regulations that they could use to be reasonable and prudent about access to this, because it's very strong alcohol. They want to use it to infuse expensive drinks.
Yes.
But we all know how these things can be abused.
Right.
And so we just wanted to be careful. So I thought it was really well done by the governor. The first year he said, no, I'm not going to go. I'm going to veto this, give you guys a year to take a look at it, see what you can do to ensure the safety, because we really heard from a lot of the folks from our college campuses. And this year he signed it, and
well, I'll tell you,
the conditions.
And it makes sense because growing up, I had a great aunt, and she would make homemade limoncello. Which, if anybody's had limoncello, you keep it in the frozen. You keep it in the freezer. You take it out, and when you have guests over after dinner, you have a little limoncello after dinner. Yep. And she took a lot of pride. Well, she made it with Everclear, and I'll tell you, I mean, this was my church going. Great aunt, and she would make this homemade limoncello, which was delicious. Wow. But you wouldn't want to drive afterwards because it would really knock your socks off. But but in terms of it being near colleges, I've got nieces and nephews, and they're in college. And look, whether they had the Everclear access or not, they would just if they wanted to be intoxicated, they would just drink more of whatever other alcoholic beverage they were consuming. So, in terms of having access, I can see why that would be an issue, but it's good.
Well,
it's good that it's back.
The manufacturers felt it was unfair that there are other, you can get 151 Bacardi rum, and why Everclear being singled out. And they said, it's going to be millions of dollars. You could probably sell it for the course of the year through your ABC. But you got to all of these things. It's a balance, right? Are people going to use it responsibly? It all comes down to the personal responsibility of exercising that opportunity.
Well, great.
Have access to this. So
so we have Everclear.
We hope people will use it. Use it responsibly.
And the other one that came out that's getting a lot of attention is that now it will be up to a judge's discretion whether or not to suspend the driver's license of someone caught with a small amount of marijuana. In the past, it was an automatic 6-month suspension.
Boy, you really know your laws, Martha.
Well,
now, you know Everclear, you know marijuana. What's going on up at Liberty Farm?
I'm telling you. Well, so these laws just became into effect on July 1st. I post this on my social media, and it gets blown up with a lot of people that are paying close attention. And so what are your thoughts about this?
Big supporter of that.
Yeah.
The governor's position is a big supporter of that.
Yes.
We have over 200,000 Virginians with a suspended license for non-motor vehicle-related offenses.
Ridiculous.
Meaning they weren't driving, yet their license gets suspended for certain behavior.
Yeah.
Now, most of those, some are from child support. Failure to pay child support, you get your license suspended. It has nothing to do with driving. But the other, about 40%, are from marijuana possession.
That's right.
So you could possess it, you could be possessing it in your home, you could be possessing it in the park, you could be walking along the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Yes.
And you get busted for marijuana possession, and they take your license for 6 months.
That's right.
Now, a lot of places in Virginia, without a license, you can't get to work.
That's right.
You don't have the metro, you don't have the bus transportation.
That's right.
And so, and then they drive anyway, and they get stopped for driving unsuspended. Then it's just a never-ending spiral downward.
Yeah.
With respect to your license.
No,
so
this was a good thing.
The opportunity to why are we suspending licenses for marijuana possession?
That's right.
So this is a first offense. This is a small step. This is just the first offense. The judge has the discretion to say, no, I'm not going to drive. So if somebody comes in to court and says, I live, I have a job, there's no way to get there but for, having a license.
Right.
Hopefully the judge will exercise that discretion, and they could always give them community service.
Sure.
There are other alternatives
No, absolutely.
To taking away a license.
And this makes sense. I mean, when we speak of criminal justice reform, how crazy is it that what you said, 200,000 Virginians have suspended?
Over 200,000, yeah. And then there's another 800,000 who don't have their license because of the failure to pay fines and costs.
Right, that's right.
And there was a bill on that, too, very bipartisan. Manoli LaPasse from the Richmond area got involved. Senator Adam Ebbin from Northern Virginia. We had a lot of Democrats, Republicans on these bills that said, we'll expand the opportunities for people to use payment plans.
Right.
As little as 5% of what you owe. As long as you put that up as a down payment and then pay regularly, you can keep your driver's license.
Well, sure.
That was big. That was important. People need their license to get to work.
Exactly. I mean, but it's the same thing. Like child support. Unpaid fines. If our people can't get to work, how are they going to pay those bills? I mean, So I think it's wise. It was good to see this. I certainly support it, and well, we are out of time.
Well, if you support it, it must be a good idea.
There you go. Well, no, thank you, Brian. You are doing an incredible job. And how can our listeners get in touch with your office if they have a question or just want to follow what you're doing?
Check us out. We have a Facebook page, Public Safety. We have Twitter, and of course the governor's account. Governor McAuliffe has his Twitter going, and I've been listening to some of your callers. I mean, the president needs to stay off his Twitter account. I know, but
go ahead.
We stick to just public safety issues on ours. We don't get into all the other stuff.
Okay. Well, now just for our listeners, so they know. I'll have you all know that Brian Moran has a can I call it a farmette? But anyway, you have chickens. Do you still have chickens?
You bet we have chickens.
Yeah, chickens.
We love our chickens.
They love their chickens. In fact, they even heat up warm oats with berries in the wintertime to feed their chickens.
And corn.
And corn.
Loves to cook the corn.
Yes.
Warm corn.
Warm corn. These are loved, pampered chickens. The Moran chickens are loved and pampered.
Pets, and they produce.
They do.
Give something back.
They
do. Eggs. So
they
it's
do.
a wonderful thing to have. We have 5.5 acres, so we have room for them.
That's right. And I know Karen would donate some of the eggs sometimes to the local the food banks, which
correct.
Which is
because
wonderful.
We have far more eggs than we could possibly eat every night, and so she collects them.
That's just such a blessing. It's so beautiful. We do the same thing with what we have an abundance of leftover harvest or eggs. We do that too, and I was so happy to hear that. Well, anyway, and you grow strawberries.
No, the strawberries too hot.
Too hot.
The sun just beat down on them, so I have cucumbers and pumpkins and squash.
There you go.
Zucchini, and watermelon. But the strawberries didn't do well.
Gotcha.
I have to water them too often. There's too much sun for them, unfortunately.
That's right. And I understand that the governor's mansion has grapes in the backyard and chickens. No chickens. No.
Yes, they have chickens. Dorothy and the governor, First Lady Dorothy, is very much into the nutrition and the food. She's been doing a lot of work with their kids in school and healthy breakfasts, and so they're trying to live what they preach. And they have chickens on there. They have, I think, 3 chickens, at least 3.
Yes.
And they have they grow vegetables at the mansion as well, and so it's that's
well, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything, and we'll have you on again soon.
Well, happy 4th to everybody, and please drive safely. Please be safe out there and enjoy the holiday.
Thank you. Brian Moran, keeping us safe in the Commonwealth of Virginia.